This is me. A slave to my computer, I have never attempted to grow anything in my life. Houseplants quake in fear at my presence, and I regularly go weeks or even months without touching any grass. But I love a cozy game. Escaping to a digital world where I can grow and eat my own food, and imagining a life for myself that involves 100% more cow is one of my favorite pastimes. However, since I currently possess whatever the exact opposite of a green thumb is, I've been wondering, can playing Stardew Valley teach me to become a farmer and bring me one step closer to the cottagecore life of my dreams? Following the rules of Stardew Valley, I'm going to attempt to grow 4 different crops, and hopefully I'll be able to cook them into something resembling a Stardew Valley meal when I'm done. This is not a cooking channel, so I'll do what I can. However, for the purposes of this video, I would really consider any of these plants, so much as sprouting, a success. Because again, I really cannot overstate how little experience I have with growing things. There is just one problem though. Unfortunately, I have not been left a huge piece of farmland from my dead grandfather, and I live in a 1-bedroom apartment on the 1st floor. Also, it's September, so everyone cross your fingers and hope for the best. Stardew Valley begins in the warm embrace of spring, but since it's currently autumn in the UK, I'll need to wait until the first leaves begin to fall in Pelican Town. Now that we're all synced up, the first step is to get my hands on some seeds. Honestly, I almost failed at the first hurdle because choosing what seeds to buy is actually extremely complicated. As per the rules of the game, different seasons are only suitable for growing certain crops. And luckily for in-game me, Pierre's General Store only stocks seeds that can be planted during the current season. Real-life me, however, had no such luck. My local DIY store sold literally anything, regardless of its ability to actually grow in whatever this is. But Jeff, from Mr. Bezos's General Store, had a selection of seeds that told me they could grow inside in September. So I added the seeds to my cart, bought some pots and some compost I selected at random from the DIY store, and headed home. I did my best to make my selection of seeds Stardew Valley accurate, but Amazon UK doesn't have the same stock as Pierre's, so this is what we've ended up with. Amaranth, radishes, which are a summer crop in the valley, but the packet said September, so sue me. Spinach, which is basically like whitewashed bok choy if you think about it. And rocket, or arugula, which is the same colour as an artichoke, so close enough. While I tilled the soil on my digital farm to prepare for planting, I filled my pots and cleared some space on my windowsill, which is as close to outside as these plants are ever going to get. At least I didn't need to chop down any trees to make space. Welcome to my kitchen floor. I have pots. I have seeds. I have a tiny watering can. But most importantly, I have dungarees, which means I am ready to farm. Luckily for me, these seeds I bought have instructions for dummies on how to plant them. But I'm pretty sure virtual me just throws them on the ground and calls it a day. And since these amaranth seeds have absolutely no instructions, that's what we're gonna be doing. I also didn't buy any gloves, so I'm gonna have to use my hands. As I went to fill my pots, I was met with my first hurdle of grappling with the compost bag. I have no concept of how much compost is enough, if this is the right amount of compost, or really anything about what I'm doing, so we're just gonna see what happens. I measured the soil with my heart, filling the pots to the top. I would have felt silly if this had failed, because I didn't use enough dirt. Is dirt supposed to be lumpy? It's very lumpy. I really don't know. I added what was probably too many seeds. There are seeds in here. Planting them a couple of centimeters deep, and then covering them with more soil, just like I've seen real farmers do on TV. I sprinkled them with a Stardew-appropriate amount of water from my tiny watering can. I have no idea how much I'm supposed to water these either, so let's go. And finished with an almost depleted energy bar. This farming business was hard work. Seems about right. Planted, watered, and placed in a spot in my house that is supposed to have sunlight, I only had one thing left to do. Wait. According to the laws of Stardew Valley, my gentrified bok choy should be ready to harvest in just 4 days. While I waited, I tended to my plants, made sure to water them, read to them, and tuck them in at night, just in case my love made all the difference. It's day 4 in my virtual farm, and as you can see, my first harvest is ready as promised. But 4 days later in my real farm, and literally nothing has happened. Well, not literally nothing. There is a tiny sprout in my rocket plant, which means I haven't killed them all off just yet. And that's kind of progress. I don't really know what I expected, to be honest. I have zero idea how long these plants should take to grow. And deep down, I knew that nothing would actually be ready to harvest in 4 days. But somehow, I'm still disappointed. My bok choy replacement that Stardew Valley promised would be ready by now? Still a pot of dirt that looks identical to the day I planted it. Will that ever change? change, I have no way of knowing. So, to give my crops a fighting chance, and to account for the fact that real-life time, tragically, is much slower than Stardew Valley time, I'm going to let them sit for a bit longer. A full Stardew Valley season, which is about a month in real time. But, since I'm physically incapable of being chill, I'm also going to track down some actual professional farming advice while I wait. Maybe there's something that I can do to speed this along. Or maybe I've already doomed my poor little plants. So, that night, I made sure to go to bed before 2 AM to avoid passing out, and got up bright and early the next day for an adventure, thanks to my new authentic farm alarm clock. Turns out, roosters don't come with a snooze button. One of my favourite parts of the farm life fantasy is animal keeping. I love a fluffy little guy. So, while I wait for my crops to grow, I hope, I've decided to consult an expert in the field. Literally, the field. Hello, Mr. Cow. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to have this interview with me. As you have decades of hands-on farming experience, would you be able to give me some advice on growing crops? Excellent advice. I know that you love to eat your own grass. What's your secret to a delicious harvest? I suppose I could learn a lesson or two in being patient. I have one last question, if that's okay. What's your #1 tip for a rookie farmer like myself? Ouch. Rude, but probably true. Thank you again, Mr. Cow. It's been an honor to learn about patience from you, and I will carry your chill vibes and wisdom into my crop growing journey. Unless you'd like to come and be my farm companion. Wait, a cow costs how much? Well, it's not quite the same, but at least this one fits in my apartment. My new farm companion can remind me to be patient, be kind, and actually listen to the needs of my plants, which is a surprisingly good lesson for looking after yourself. And honestly, I think he's judging me less than the real one did. And so, armed with the wisdom of Mr. Cow, I waited. I tended to my crops, watering them daily as Stardew Valley intended, and making sure to give them words of encouragement along the way. My new farm guardian watched over them, and I practiced being patient, unsure if all this effort was going to yield any actual results, or if I would be spending the next 3 weeks watering plants that were already dead.
It's day 12 and I've just gone to check my spinach plant and it has a tiny little sprout. I thought for sure it was dead, but that is patience, I suppose.
After 28 days of trial and error, plush mentorship, and a surprising amount of patience, I've learned some valuable lessons. Cows are wise, crops are far more complicated in real life, and patience takes forever. After a full season in the valley, my digital farm is thriving. Amaranth, bok choy, and artichokes are all ready to harvest. I fixed up my greenhouse to grow radishes out of season, and I even got myself a wisdomous cow. But now, it's finally time for the moment of truth. No magic fertilizer, no fast forward button, just me, my new plush friend, and my tiny watering can, against all the odds of having no idea what I'm doing. Using a season of digital farming strategies, my newfound cow wisdom, and all the patience that I somehow managed to summon, have I actually grown anything in real life? Yep. Somehow, against all the odds, all my plants are alive and actually looking pretty good. My amaranth looks like amaranth, the radishes look pretty promising, and my spinach and rocket plants are thriving. Sort of. They don't really look like spinach or rocket. The leaf shapes are suspiciously off-brand. Maybe that means I did something wrong, or maybe spinach takes longer than 28 days to physically and emotionally mature. Either way, something has grown, which I think counts as a win. Now, I'm slightly terrified to find out what's under the dirt of this radish plant. I did, in fact, plant way too many seeds, so it's time to find out if there's anything remotely edible under here. How do you harvest a radish plant? Well, that's disappointing. There are no teeny tiny radishes under here, but at least I've grown leaves, which means I've only kind of wasted the last month of my life. To help salvage my harvest into something edible, I'm going to try to cook my crops into a Stardew Valley style salmon dinner, because farming, as it turns out, is mostly an excuse to make snacks. Okay, so I've taken some creative liberty with the recipe. The in-game version calls for salmon, amaranth, and kale. We have amaranth, so that's a good start. And we've already established that rocket is close enough to an artichoke, or in this case, kale, because they are both green. As for the salmon, don't worry. I'll be catching my own free-range fish fingers, just like Stardew Valley intended. Because have you seen the price of salmon in this economy? Cooking is really a strong word for what is essentially making a salad. But nevertheless, after 28 days of waiting, watering, and worrying, 1 cow's worth of advice, and a frankly unwarranted amount of blind optimism, it's finally time to find out. Can Stardew Valley teach you how to farm something edible? It actually smells exactly like Rocket from the supermarket. Looks a little bit like Rocket from a packet, but it's very baby leaf. Shockingly, it's actually good. It tastes like Rocket, but it's not quite as bitter as the Rocket you get from the supermarket, probably because it hasn't had time to grow up and become jaded and bitter at the world yet. I don't even know what amaranth is, or if you can eat it, but we're gonna try. Overall, I'd say not bad. The radishes didn't grow, but I did grow leaves. Nothing died, and the Rocket tastes good. I'd say that my journey from virtual farmer to real life farmer is complete. Just don't ask me to milk anything.